Farming is not necessarily needed in Dragon's Dogma 2, however there are some nice things to have, especially once you get sick of traveling the normal way. Ferrystone kinda become a huge money sink, plus some of the other items you will buy inevitably from most vendors. So today I'm gonna show you some minimal setup farming methods that can bring you at least 100,000 gold every single hour, and you don't even have to go too far away from any of the capital cities. Now, the first farming method is going to bring you 20,000 gold pretty much every 10 minutes by simply defeating a boss that constantly spawns just outside of the western gate of Vernworth. And for this, you're going to need to complete pawn quests, specifically ones from players that have you defeat some of these tougher enemies like minotaurs, golems, but in this case, we're going to pay special attention to the ones that involve defeating one cyclops, and especially ones that have the reward set up for 10,000 gold. And by the way, I suggest everybody go ahead and set up your pawn quest at any Riftstone to defeat one of these enemies and then set up the reward for 10,000 gold. What this does is that it's going to help you a lot. It's also going to help others a lot, as they will get your pawn in their party, and by completing the quest you just set up will get that reward for 10,000 gold. And lots of people actually started doing this, as it's going to literally help the entire community. So here's how I do it the most optimal way. First of all, head over to the Riftstone in the middle of the town and check the pawns in the rift right here, and go to the specialization/quest tab to see which one of those lists a pawn quest to defeat Cyclops in this case. You can choose Ogre or something else if you're in a different location and find a different spot. But for now, we're going to focus on the Cyclops one. Go ahead and mark these down, as this screen is not going to show you what rewards you get from completing that just yet. You're going to have to manually check for each individual pawn. Once you do that, head over to the ones that you see, and if one of the marked ones has this listed plus a 10k reward, immediately add them to your party. Unfortunately, a lot of people right now didn't catch up, and they kinda list some of the worst rewards out there. Simply ignore those and filter until you get the proper ones. By the way, quick tip over here to filter through new pawns is to go to advanced search and just change the level range of the pawns that you want to hire. Start from between 30 to 50, as it seems that's the best right now to give you a ton of Cyclops defeat missions. And from this point on, simply head over to either side of this road that brings you to the western end of Vernworth. It can either spawn a troll around some of these houses by the side of the cliff, or to the left side inside of the forest, assuming that of course 7 days have passed since the last time you defeated this enemy. Simply go ahead, defeat this enemy while making sure that nobody in your party dies, and what you'll notice is that both of those defeat Cyclops missions from both of those pawns that you just hired will trigger at the same time once the fight is over, giving you 20,000 gold in the process, which is extremely easy. Keep in mind that you have to fight until the end, so if there's any ads, you do have to dispatch those two and exit the combat completely for these rewards to spawn. Once this is done, simply head over back in town. By the way, I highly recommend doing this with a warrior, as you can use the Ravening Lunge so that you can travel much faster. This ability is going to let you charge extremely fast, and it's much more stamina efficient. Once you are back in town, either at a bench or at your own house, sleep for 7 days at the very least, so that you can completely reset that spawning boss. And once you're done with that, go ahead back at the Riftstone and repeat the process to search for a whole new bunch of teammates that have the same Cyclops mission listed. You can only do it once per pawn. And by the way, I also tested this with pawns I previously hired in the past days. No, you cannot repeat them. You will constantly have to find new pawns from new people. That's why the more players do this, the more it's going to help everybody out. So once you recruited a bunch of new pawns with the same Cyclops mission and the same 10k reward each, simply head over back again, either on the village to the right side or the forest to the left side. You should see that boss over there spawning again. Defeat the Cyclops, and yeah, you're gonna get another 20k right away. And no joke, if you pull this off properly, or if you can get some codes from other people and share them between one another, you can definitely do this even in less than 10 minutes, to the point that you can probably pull off hundreds of thousands of gold, at the very least 100k, just repeating this for about an hour. Definitely one of the most fun ways of doing it, plus you get a ton of XP and pretty much level up everybody in your party. Now, the second method is mostly aimed towards those who want to rank up classes fast or want to get a ton of XP and level up fast by instantly one-shotting bosses. So for this, we're going to farm a ton of Medusa heads on repeat right here at the Colliginous Depths, which you can of course see in the other video that I posted before. And like I said before, I recommend setting up a port crystal right in front of it so that you can teleport from Bagbatal to here and back and just place those heads in your inventory. It's not completely needed, but if you want to stockpile on them and kind of have a bunch of heads in an inventory for some reason, this can help a ton. But in this case, you're going to go ahead and defeat Medusa by just doing slashing damage to her head. It seems that this can work with multiple classes. In my case, it seems that Thief works the best, especially if they have a lightning enchantment on those knives. And in this case, I recommend also slashing the head off while it has at least 3 HP bars, as you can then get a pristine condition head or preserved Medusa head, which is going to give you a lot more usage than having one that is withered or not being preserved. And from this point on, I just went ahead and placed them in my stash so that they get preserved and I can always come back, take them out and use them however I see fit. So maybe get a few of those before jumping in with the farming method. And by far the best zone I found personally that also doesn't take too long to complete is going to be right here south of the gate entrance into Batal region. So there are 4 bosses just to this southern area map right here, including 2 dragons. So first one is going to be the Griffin, which is going to be right by the road as you descend from the gates. This is a Grand Griffin, by the way, so you can immediately one-shot it and get a ton of XP. I think that diminishing returns start happening after level 50 because this used to be like 28k, but for some reason now it's only 7k. Then if you go down here by the river as you pass this bridge, usually there's going to be a Chimera boss, which again you can one-shot with just one glance. And there are 2 dragons, like I said. One of them is going to be right here to the east, very close to the Revenant Shrine, where you encounter Luz for the first time. So it's going to be again by the side of the river after you pass a bunch of rocks. And finally, there's one more dragon by the Forgotten Riftstone right here west of the same area, again next to the water. This is another big dragon which you can immediately take down. And I believe there's also a golem enemy around this Inoa Bathal forest, but you're gonna have to pay attention to some of the ruins in this zone. So there's like 4 or 5 bosses in a pretty condensed area, so you're looking at a ton of XP, easy to farm up and level up almost any character. But do keep in mind that once you petrify one of these bosses, unfortunately they will not drop anything any longer. At least that was the case on the PlayStation 5. It would have been nice because we could have then used some of the worm stones that we get from the dragons at one of the NPC vendors later on. But since this is going to help you level up fast and you also get some of that money from the previous method, you can head over right here to the Bay Wayside Shrine. This is a place you visit from the story anyway. Talk to the NPC in the area, and as you're gonna get better at defeating the drakes the normal way, you can afford a lot of Ferrystones, even port crystals, and even the unmaking arrow right here from this for just like 3, 15, and then 20 of those worm stones you can get by defeating the drakes. And finally, probably the best gold farming method right now in the game is right here, just a bit southwest of Bagbatal. I'm gonna give a huge shout out to Ragnar right here on YouTube for actually showing me this method, so totally check out his channel and also make sure you subscribe to him. But basically this method is going to be right here at the Digger's Ruins, which is just a 20-second run if you do it the proper way from the main city. So the way you want to do this is to set up a port crystal right here, maybe even closer to some of these vendors if you want to do it fully efficient. From this point on, we're going to just use this southwestern exit, and then we're going to jump over some of these terraces and keep it to the left side, as this is going to bring us to that destination in just 20 seconds instead of more than 2 minutes by going the normal roadway. And once you reach here, you're going to see that there's a place you can jump off, which is going to bring you right in front of the cave. Now, inside of the cave, you're going to find a lot of this special ore pretty much all over the place. So I recommend just learning the layout of that cave to make the most out of it. I recommend starting from the right side path and then circling around, coming back from the other side, as that's the best in my opinion. So just look for some of these crystal formations. They are pretty much all over the place. They will give you the glimmer coal, and some of these glimmer coals can also be of rare quality, so they will sell for a lot more. So in total, you should be with at least 110, in my opinion, after a single run, not included some of the other materials, because you can also find some of the other copyrights and other resources in there that also sell for quite a bit. And there's even a Minotaur enemy that you can defeat over here, which again is going to give you resources that are worth at least a few thousand extra. So once you're completely done with the run and cleared everything, which should take no more than a few minutes, exit the cave and then use a port crystal to go back to town and sell everything, which should be at least 30,000 gold. The lowest I've seen was 29,000, but it can go as high as 35 depending on your luck. Your only cost over here is going to be the 10k that you have to pay for the Ferrystone at Isaac, as that's going to make the run that much faster. But I think it's still worth it to spend that 10k, as you're getting like at least 15 from this run once you subtract that cost out of it. And by the way, speaking of sleep, you will definitely want to sleep for at least like 4 or 5 days, either back at your house or maybe just waiting on a bench, so that the entire cave actually gets reset, including the enemies inside. And this is also going to reset Isaac, which is then going to again sell the Ferrystone, so you can buy this on repeat over and over. Anyway, that's pretty much it with the farming methods. Probably there's many more that people have posted. There's no reason for me to just repeat them. You can find them on YouTube. These were the ones that I used and found to be the most useful for me. So again, let me know down below in the comments if you found anything that's equally as good or maybe even better than these. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.